Welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle. And if you're suffering from Lyme, from mold, from parasites, and maybe just chronic inflammation, systemic all over of any kind that's robbing your life, you might want to listen to this podcast. So the cliche is not wrong. Milk really does do a body good. Now, before you change this podcast or before you turn the dial or whatever, I will say I'm lactose intolerant and I've done what we're about to talk about on the podcast. And so if you're intolerant, you're dairy sensitive, you don't think this podcast is going to apply to you, you might want to reconsider and just listen for a bit. And whether you are a milk lover or not, you may be amazed at what you're about to hear. Because let me tell you, prior to this podcast, I never liked or craved or desired milk, but I have found a new use for milk and a new appreciation for it. So let me introduce you to this brilliant lady that I have on my podcast today. I will tell you, I was hugely skeptical until I came across this. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know. And then there was something in the back of my mind that was really intriguing. And for those of you who are sufferers of mold or Lyme or any sort of chronic inflammation, you will go to the ends of the earth to find the answer. And if it means something way off the wall, I bet you're willing to try it. So I'll explain more later. But first, Jody Levy has founded and developed and advised over 10 health and wellness companies and counting. And as a part of her enlightened drinking mission, which maybe we can talk about, have you heard of watermelon water or perhaps Lifeway Kefir? And she's also developed an app called Neuropraxis, which we'll be talking about. And the most importantly, the Lab Elemental Milk Cleanse, which is what we're going to touch on today. We will be discussing this non-deprivation cleanse that helps clear the gut of parasites and toxins from the body, which is the first step to clearing that foggy brain, the upset stomach, your overall imbalance, and even weight loss. So Jody, you are brilliant, and I can't wait to talk to you. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Jodelle, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, me too. So I just can't wait to dive into how important this podcast is for people to listen to, because I think the story that you're going to brief me on, that's your kind of health journey, is going to resonate with a lot of people because it resonated with me. So dive right in, Jody. Tell me what brought you here.
Okay. Well, I echo everything you opened with. Milk is super weird. And the whole concept of a milk cleanse is like the strangest thing ever. And it happens to be, the hardest business to grow because everybody on the planet, or at least a lot of people, especially in America, think that milk causes inflammation.
Right.
It's very bad for us. And I was one of those people. And to be honest with you, in my everyday life, I kind of abide by that. I'm not really a dairy eater.
Same.
But I was also one of the people, as you referenced, that was so far gone and so desperate to try anything. And I really got to the place where I had nothing left to try and I had access to absolutely everything. And after carrying around these random hand-packed bottles that I had gotten from a doctor in Santa Fe, New Mexico, who I didn't really know that well. Now she's like my sister and my business partner in this endeavor. I finally was in so much pain that I was like, all right, can't do me any harm to try to drink milk for 8 days and take these natural supplements. So I'm going to try it. Mm-hmm. And in 2016, I did this weird experiment that, I didn't tell anybody about because I was so self-conscious of it. And by the 8th day, I got my life back after being undiagnosed with Lyme disease and toxic mold exposure for 18 years and spending another 4 years trying to get better.
Yeah.
So after all that, I drank milk for 8 days. I did the milk cleanse for the first time. I had the most insanely profound experience. I called Dr. Linda Lancaster and I was like, we're turning this into a product. Everybody needs to have access to this. Mm-hmm. And I've been fighting the good fight ever since.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And I can relate because as I shared with you before the podcast, for 4 years, I've been battling this mold exposure and trying to get back to where I was. You're always trying to get back to where you were right before the exposure. And in 8 days, after being super skeptical, I'm like, oh, I don't know what else to do. I might as well try it. I'm at the tail end of my treatment. I've gotten most of it gone, but there's still these residual symptoms that I can't get rid of. And after 8 days, 99% of that was gone. So it was just phenomenal to me to see that what I'd been trying to do in 4 years was accomplished in 8 days. And so that's why I brought you on, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you were right. Everybody has to have access to this. So we got to talk about how it works.
Okay. So if you catch me catching myself, it's because I'm conscientious of what I can say and what I can't say.
Okay.
So Dr. Linda's been using this protocol for like 40 years.
Okay.
And she, it's a traditional Ayurvedic parasite cleanse.
Yeah.
So it's an adaptation of like a milk mono diet.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I call biotoxic invaders, of which there are more and more of in our environment. So I'll stop there and just explain like tick-borne illnesses that, for those of you that don't know that expression, come from getting bitten by ticks in the woods or in city parks and in grass, et cetera. Now they're in the beaches in certain places. The quality of our air, the quality of our water, the exposure to, molds that come from wet buildings, which can happen all over the place, including dry climates. Heavy metals in food packaging. Like there's more and more as we invent new things and build more on the planet, there's more of these invaders that we have to, become balanced with, because ultimately it's just a state of homeostasis. And so our bodies are contending with more in the day-to-day. And I believe that we need like wellness interventions to kind of bring our balance back, right? And so Ayurveda is the ancient science of life. Yeah. Yoga comes from this system. And so we've taken this like ancient parasite treatment and we've figured out that it totally resets the gut. The milk acts as a magnet for parasites and spirochetes, which are the type of organism that comes from a tick-borne illness, and that was what carries Lyme, also act like parasites. So the milk acts like a magnet in the gut, and then every 2 hours you take these supplements that we've created that have things in them like cayenne pepper and slippery elm and wormwood, and it kills the microbiological organisms that aren't meant to be there, and it pulls it out through the colon. So you end up talking about poop a lot. The 8 days that you're on the milk cleanse.
Well, and I love that you mentioned the Ayurvedic approach, because this is a 5,000 plus year form of medicine, actually probably the first form of medicine. And so people really need to consider how Ayurvedic and Indian cultures have had milk as a part of their regimen since the beginning of time. So milk is something, even the Bible talks about the land flowing with milk and honey, like how important milk is. But I think we as a culture have gotten far from what that milk was. Like our conventional milk and what you get at the grocery store isn't really milk. I just call it white water because it looks like this chemical white water. So, I think milk has been underestimated to the power that it can help with. But I do feel like as soon as people understand how it works in the body, like what you're saying, how it acts as a binder, how it acts as like a magnet to attract those things, they're going to get the gist of like why milk has been so in so many cultures for so long, and how it actually does help the human body. And that's why it's the first food of humans. Like there's a reason why a creator gave us milk as our first food.
And to that point, that is, milk has protein, carbohydrates, and fat.
Yeah.
So the best part about the milk cleanse is it's a non-deprivation cleanse.
Right.
It's actually only called a cleanse because it's kind of the thing that we associate, but it's not like a juice cleanse where your body is, deficient of proteins or fats, or it's like the perfect food.
Yeah. It's like not a fast either. Like a fast would be you're fasting from something, but you're not really fasting from any of the macronutrients with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why so many of us feel so good when we're on it, because it resets the gut. And then obviously the connection from the gut to the brain, many people that actually are not contending with biotoxicity, but just like want, to get rid of foggy brain, or need a reset in their gut, or, want to reset their hormones. It's like this really easy kind of wellness intervention that just brings the body back in balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can I tell you that some of the changes that I felt, like some of the relief I experienced? So when I started Okay, so an eerie calm came over me, which was weird because like I'm kind of high strung and animated and stuff like that. But I do have moments of anxiety, but this was like an eerie calm. Like I was just like calm about everything. Like somebody could have ran over me with a truck and I'd be like, it's okay. So and then by day 3, I really started actually leaning out and my clothes fit better. So it wasn't like, and I wasn't just, doing like a glass of milk 3 times a day. I mean, I'm a fitness trainer. So I drink a gallon of milk a day. I was pounding milk. So it wasn't like I was cutting calories. I was probably getting 2,000 calories worth of milk, but yet my clothes were fitting better than ever. And I went with raw goat's milk because I found a local farm. I went out there. I watched the little kid milk my goat with the milk, and I like watched it come out. I'm like, this is really special. Like they take care of the animals. I'm drinking good milk where the goats are happy. And so I don't know, you could actually feel that when you're drinking it. You could feel that this milk had really good frequency or something, if you will, because everything has a frequency. But what I noticed too with that is I didn't have any symptoms that I would normally have with cheese or milk or dairy that I would get from the grocery store. Normally that would make me stuffy, make me bloated. Not this. I didn't have one repercussion from this other than feeling amazing. Maybe the residual like milk breath when you're done. That was about the worst aspect, is that sour milk.
It's real. Yeah.
So, and then my skin tightened up by day 5. So I had this residual cellulite from the mold that was still kind of hanging around. Well, that actually disappeared. And I was able to wear like, I don't wear shorty shorts, but I was able to wear some like Bermuda shorts for like the first time. And I felt confident. So in 4 years, I've been trying to do that. So my wrinkles seemed less. My skin was clearer and tightened. My teeth felt whiter. My workouts were still strong, even though I wasn't eating food. I was just drinking milk. And so, and the best thing was I could still have coffee. You want to talk about that?
Oh my God. It's literally the difference between people saying yes to this and not. I mean, I told you earlier, I'm on day 4 of a milk cleanse right now.
Yeah.
And I actually do it now because it makes my brain so sharp.
Yeah.
So when I'm in like moments of stress in my life, I go on a milk cleanse because it allows me to just get super clear and my performance goes up. And I'm the same. I drink a lot of milk.
Yeah.
But it just makes me feel amazing. And I'm so glad to hear all of those things.
Yeah. And coming from someone with thyroid issues, my body temperature improved. Like occasionally I might get cold hands and feet again even though I've gotten myself mostly through the mold, but occasionally I'll have it. Not at all during the 8 days did I ever have cold hands and feet or my body felt cold. In fact, I was cranking down the air conditioner and stuff like that. So, I really want to show people that, this isn't a diet that you're going to go on. This is just something you're going to do to clean out your system or clear the brain fog, like you said. Or if you're dealing with this chronic illness, give it a try, because this is something that's so far out there that it just might work, right? And it's so backed by science. It's backed by Ayurvedic medicine. One thing I loved about the cleanse too is you can warm your milk and put cinnamon in it, and that was really good at night to like relax with that. So, what are some other things that you do with the milk?
I mean, I'm a purist, right? Okay. Like I didn't actually answer your question about the coffee, which I just realized. But the reason that you drink coffee is because the coffee stimulates the liver.
Okay, good.
So the coffee continues, like the bitter of coffee is one of the only flavors that like stimulates the liver to detox, which is a big part of this, right?
Yeah.
I'm a goat milk girl. And actually one of my favorite parts about this is I'm very spontaneous. So when I decide to go on milk cleanse, I'm often like, I get the pasteurized goat milk from Whole Foods or for the local organic markets, only because it's usually like, oh, I think I want to do this tomorrow, right? And I go on my website and I have them send it to me wherever I am in the world.
That's so funny.
But the first time I did it, my co-founder, Dave, who absolutely saved my life by introducing this to me, he's a wine connoisseur. And he was like, just drink every kind of milk you can get.
Okay.
And I had camel milk sent in, and I had goat milk, and I had this cow's milk, and I had buttermilks, and I was like steaming it and we were doing tastings. And my sister, who doesn't go anywhere near dairy, she's also a fitness instructor and a nutritionist, and she loves the milk cleanse.
Oh, good.
And And then I was like, okay, goat milk is where it's at.
Yeah.
This is what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just drink it and enjoy the extra time that I have by not like cooking all my meals.
Yeah, so let's talk about some benefits of the cleanse outside of just, if it is a chronic issue somebody's dealing with, is you do have a lot more time on your hands. You have a lot less dishes to do. What else did you notice?
For me, the clarity of mind also kind of gives me like, it gets me tuned to my creative side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like part, left, right, like this weird balance of left and right brain. My intuition gets really heightened.
Yeah.
Like those moments where, you think about somebody and they call 2 seconds later,
Uh-huh.
or I anticipate something that then like happens. So that gets like very honed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even do it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the extra time, and I always go into a cleanse, and I'll always like recommend for people, I try to think about what I want to do at that time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, am I going to work on a book? Am I going to paint? Am I going to what am I going to do with that week coming out of it that I want to accomplish?
Mm-hmm.
Or not? Sometimes it's actually doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I try to be really intentional with it. Most of us that have had a profound experience doing the milk cleanse do it like 2 to 4 times a year. And after the first time, it's never this, like you never get that crazy reset because the body kind of, recalibrates. Mm-hmm. But every single time it's the same kind of like just awe-striking, like how does this work so well kind of thing, which is literally what keeps me going with it because it's a total passion project for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I think the milk is so high in minerals and in vitamin A that I think people are going to see other things like that. It's that thyroid improvement. The thyroid can't work without vitamin A. And then also sleep improvement. I mean, my sleep deepened immensely just after the first night, the very first night, it deepened. So I think that has to do with so much calcium and magnesium, and those are your calming minerals. And maybe that's where that eerie calm came from too, because you're getting such a high magnesium content. So maybe people that are just dealing with anxiety or sleep issues, they might want to give it a try too, because parasites can actually be a issue with your sleep. You could be waking up, especially if you're waking on the full moon. So you might know a little bit about that too, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of people, I believe that parasites and mold are the two like kind of new genres of medicine. And I think a lot of people that are suffering from kind of the invisible stuff that nobody can figure out fall into those 2 categories typically.
Yeah.
And it's weird and gross, but like during the new moon and the full moon, there's more action, and a lot of people that have like stuff in their system. And by the way, you can get a parasite from eating raw kale.
Anything. Yeah.
You can get it from eating raw sushi. Like, right. and it's, we're like natural organisms living in a natural environment. Mm-hmm. And so I think most people that I know, it's like that 3-4 a.m. wake up where like something's stirring. There's no rhyme or reason, not necessarily anything stressful. And there's this like pattern that happens. Mm-hmm. And that's my favorite part, when people tell me that like they've been sleeping through the night for, the week and then ongoing afterwards.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because we don't realize like what being woken before sunrise does to our rhythms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also the effects of just having that wind down with the milk. Like I would have a glass of milk and it would wind you down. So for people who have trouble falling asleep, warm milk is not just grandma's theory. Like it actually does do a body good when it comes to sleep as well. And then with regard to the health of your skin, did you notice any skin difference? Because I noticed this kind of glow. I don't know if it's like a milk glow or what.
Yeah, we call it the milk glow.
Oh, okay, good.
I literally, like, if I have to do a photo shoot of some sort, I'll do the milk cleanse for at least 3 days before.
Nice.
And the craziest part is, have you been like, I know it's a weird kind of, social, antisocial moment in history, but I'll walk down the street and like randoms will come up to me and be like, your skin is glowing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got an email today. I like love our customer service. So the emails come to me.
Okay.
And this person wrote today and they were like, can you explain why I'm on day 6, why my skin looks so amazing? But the answer is that, the skin is a reflection of our gut.
Right.
And so when we reset the microbiome of the gut and it is in a healthy state and it's in balance, the skin is a reflection of that.
That's right. Yeah, people don't realize that healthy skin comes from within. So what you're digesting and assimilating is going to show up for sure.
Totally.
Well, let's go back to poop a little bit. What are people going to expect on this cleanse with regard to poop? Because there is a stage when it's going to start to liquefy a little bit.
Yeah. So there's 2 kinds of people.
Okay.
In life, right? There's the people that like hold stuff in and there's the people that just let it all go.
Right.
And the people that let it all go, usually like by the morning of day 2, the milk cleanse is not next to me right now, but I can show it to you guys. The milk cleanse has 4 supplement bottles in it. Mm-hmm. And one of them is called Urban Colon Builder. It basically is a bunch of natural ingredients, all herbs and some sea minerals that help the colon detox. People that tend to let things go take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, and it's plenty. And things start moving and they keep moving. And stuff can get like fluffy, and there's a lot of cayenne pepper. And the cayenne pepper can be a little intense when people aren't drinking a gallon of milk a day. I'm also super active, so I drink more milk than less.
Yeah.
People that tend to hold things in sometimes need like 3 of the herbal colon builders 3 times a day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't work and they need to take organic aloe vera with it. And once things start moving, because I promise it will ultimately start moving, it'll end up being for like 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
And so then by the time people hit like day 5, I would say I'm like, you kind of know your cycle. Yeah. Like, your rhythm, what's going to happen. It's a little more predictable.
Yeah.
But you want to be near a toilet, days 1 through 4.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't really experience the whole, like, here's some worms and some stuff coming out, but I'm sure people have, like, since it is a parasite cleanse, have you had people talk about like, there's a giant worm in my toilet or anything like that? It
happens. I have also not had that happen and I feel very disappointed by it.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed too.
This is why, there's something wrong with both of us here.
Right. I know.
No, but I get a lot of emails and text messages, and people are not as excited about it as you and I are, and they're disturbed. Yeah. And when somebody, like there's long, big things that come out. And when that happens, I actually always tell people to do it again within like a 4 to 6 week period. Yeah. Just because usually there's eggs or there's like a female still there. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, so nothing I can say can be taken as like medical advice. Sure. But if you look at the literature around parasites and amoebas and worms and stuff like that, you kind of want to make sure you get it all out of the system.
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to the sleep, if they are waking at that full moon and they've got itching anus and stuff like that, not to be too graphic, or you just can't sleep around a full moon, it's definitely time to do a parasite cleanse, because that's one of the biggest symptoms, that they can come alive when the full moon is doing its thing. So, okay. So how can people start the cleanse? Like they order the kit, and then the kit does not come with milk, right? They have to go find their own source. Okay. And then they just designate a time. And shouldn't they, when I kind of spanned out my time, I looked at like, okay, I don't have any social gatherings to go to that will be weird. So what would you say? Like, how can they kind of pre-plan?
So I think everybody's first milk cleanse, it's great to like at least carve out 4 days for the first 4 days where it's about you. You get to do what you feel like doing. You're going to feel amazing. Some people that have like Lyme spirochetes might go through, some symptoms and stuff like that. They might get achy joints. They might have like bouts of that. There's a therapeutic bath protocol that really helps with that stuff. by day 4 or 5, I feel like I'm usually running around with my milk. I never go anywhere without my milk. But I go and I'll go to a party or I'll go sit at a dinner with my friends and, they roll their eyes, they laugh at me and I'm the girl with the goat milk.
Oh.
But it doesn't really prevent me from doing much. I do try to make it a bit more of a ritual for me. Like if I'm going to take the time to do this for my body, like I'll take a little extra time for my self-care and a little extra time for my fitness. And I'll just make sure that I make the most of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really good, I found, to schedule it on days when you're super, like in my case, I had a lot of things that day, like a lot of clients. So I didn't have a lot of time to sit and enjoy my meals. So it was easier for me to just drink in between clients and move on. So that might be something to think about too, is like, plan it when you can keep yourself busy, but maybe not too active, just in case your energy has a lull on day 2 or something like that. But how often can they do the cleanse? How often can we cleanse? Because I'm not going to lie, I've done it twice in like a 2-month time. So, how often? And maybe doing shorter ones too, like you mentioned. Sometimes you just do it for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. So I call it a micro cleanse. You never want to do less than 4 days.
Okay.
And honestly, for anybody that's listening, that's like, this kind of sounds interesting, but 8 days sounds so daunting. I would tell you to just go in and say you're going to do 4 days. Almost every single person that does 4 days of the milk cleanse feels so good that they then go to 8, and then they'll call or write or text or send us a DM on Instagram. And they're like, how many days can I stay on milk? Did you hit that moment?
Well, yes, but I also had a little step further. I was like, I don't kind of want to go back to food. Like, I'm kind of afraid to go back to food, but of course I made myself. But you actually did it, what, 28 days was your
I did
longest?
28 days once, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I did. I felt so good, and it was so nice to have relief in my gut.
Yeah.
And my brain was like, I had just crossed the threshold where I was like in this really productive, creative space. I build a lot of companies and products, and I run a bunch of companies, and business is like my favorite artistic medium.
Yeah.
And so I was just in the zone, and I had the space to experiment with it. And the reason why I broke it in that time was because I had a board meeting and I needed to ground.
Yeah.
And so I remember the point where I was like, okay, we're going to bone broth, and then we're going to reintroduce some food.
Yeah. So talk about that. Like when they end the cleanse, there is a specific way they should probably do that, because you have another phase after the phase 1 of the 8 days.
Yes. So the main phase 1 of the milk cleanse is 8 days on milk, and you can drink water and coffee. That's it. People really are never hungry. You never should be hungry.
So
you
true.
just drink more milk.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is another 3 weeks where people return to clean food and clean nutrition. And what that means as it relates to our phase 2 is like very high quality, antibiotic free, as organic as possible proteins, vegetables, as little sugar as possible, very specific oils. And it's all in the book that comes with the kit.
Right. Yeah.
And the supplements you continue to take for 3 times a day for that whole period, because they still pull things out of the system. So it helps rebuild the gut and the gut lining, and it helps kind of pull anything that's left in the body. And, I typically go really easy on the reintroduction of food. I'll take an organic avocado and I'll mash it with some really good olive oil and like a little bit of sea salt. Or I'll take a very easy protein powder, like Sun Warrior.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any weird ingredients in it, and just mix it with water. I won't even introduce, almond milks or anything like that. And I'll just mono foods.
Yeah.
I've made the mistake over time as I've brought the product to the world, where everyone's like, I want to try it. And I'm like, oh, I'll do one with you. Right. I'll do a micro cleanse with you. Back to your question on how often you should do it. My answer is 4 times a year is ideal.
Okay.
Unless somebody's treating something. You and I have used it for more acute symptom stuff. Yeah. And in that case, I think it's been really effective for me personally to kind of pulse it in closer timeframes.
Yeah.
But I've made the mistake of like, going and eating a gluten-free pizza or something like that. And it's just a disaster.
Yeah. Although I will say, milk, especially if it's warmed a little bit, like that actually helps move bile. That's an Ayurvedic thing too, is warmed milk can actually move bile from the liver. So I actually thought that my digestion, and because you clear up the gut too, when you reintroduce foods, that you actually do better, as long as you don't go full force into something that your body's like, whoa. So, and I noticed on the phase 2, there's no dairy. Like you don't put any dairy in there. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think, everybody's bodies are different, and dairy, so milk combined with our supplements, it's very specific. I don't know if anybody that's listening has ever heard of like the Samburu people in Kenya. The Samburu people drink the animal blood and they drink milk. Okay. And when they drink milk, they put herbs in it. And so the way that they're digesting that milk is related to the interaction of the milk and the herbs. It helps them digest. Yeah. That's what happens with our supplements. That's why when you drink milk, you take the supplements every 2 hours. So when dairy is introduced with other foods, it has a different effect. It's not in conjunction with these other things, and it's pairing with other foods, and it can have a negative impact. So, in an effort to, continue to cleanse the body and keep the body out of inflammation, the milk is stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I mean, the whole thing is just really well thought out, and it's not hard to follow. Like the little booklet that you send, it makes it really cut and dry, really easy. I just think it's super smart. So we're going to shift gears now and talk about one other thing that I've gleaned from you, which is an app called Neuropraxis.
Yes.
And that I did with the milk cleanse, and then thereafter I've been doing it every day since. I think I've missed like one day because I like it so much. So tell us about Neuropraxis.
Okay, so I also use Neuropraxis. I literally built this thing for me. And everybody that I've ever met in any like waiting room of a, some weird clinic or medical facility. And I mapped all of the symptomology I'd ever heard of anybody suffering from biotoxicity. And we created a module to help alleviate the symptoms related to that topic. Yeah. So what Neuropraxis is an iPhone app. There's also a web app for non-iPhone users that has a library of 75 modules that are like guided meditations that follow a very specific protocol that opens the prefrontal cortex of the brain, connects the left and right brain hemispheres, goes into the midbrain, and allows us to repattern our limbic loops. Okay. And this is what that means. So with a lot of people that have stuff going on in the body that they don't know about, the brain actually holds on to pain patterns. Yeah. Same as like stress or PTSD triggers. Meditation is amazing. It like relaxes the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, but it doesn't repattern the brain. It doesn't stop those limbic loops. So I'll give you an example. If anybody's ever heard of like a diabetic that has lost their limb and they feel a phantom pain after the foot is gone. Yeah. That phantom pain comes because there's a loop in the brain, in the limbic system. So my amazing partner, Lisa Wimberger, had studied the brain out of survival for herself for a health issue she was having for many years, and figured out a way to basically hack the limbic looping. So after I got myself better from the milk cleanse, 3 years later, I had no symptoms of Lyme or mold exposure or anything, but I had back pain that I had had for 20 years. And I was totally desperate. And I was going to all these different experts, trying to figure out who had a saw to put me in 2 pieces or something. And I serendipitously was brought together with Lisa's work, and I thought she was in Europe for some reason, and she turned out to be around the corner from me where I was in Denver, Colorado. And I walked into her office on Halloween in a hand crocheted white unicorn outfit, and we burst out laughing and became sisters immediately. But more significantly, I did 4 sessions with her and my pain was gone. Like never came back. So I didn't really believe that was going to be what happened. I figured like I'd start flying again and I'd start jumping on airplanes and I'll be back. Never came back. Mm. So I went to Lisa and I was like, I would like to create a library for the topic of biotoxicity. And here's my outline of like in it and beyond it. So in it is, acute active symptomology. Beyond it is prevention and maintenance. Mm-hmm. And both have all the same categories, body and brain, psychology, and it covers everything from, the loneliness of people not understanding what it feels like to suffer from something that people can't figure out, to the questioning of, the medical experts and the system at large, to like general anxiety and, modules that just kind of like bring us up and help us thrive. And so we went into the studio and we recorded 75 hours worth of modules and we were building the app and the pandemic hit. And we were like, oh my God, we just built this thing for like this tiny sliver of people that are suffering from Lyme and mold. And there's like this, like a little, if you know, but if you don't know, like nobody gets it.
Yeah.
And we're like, and now the whole world is going to be contending with like their mental health because of a virus, which is like a biotoxic invader, right? And the fear of getting it and the fear of having it. And so we like threw it up online in March of 2020 and we just started sharing it with people and people started using it all over the world and like writing us and thanking us for this tool. Cause it's like this very, very fast, powerful tool. And our iPhone app went up a handful of months later and it's really easy. And so the library that's on there, it's Neuropraxis. You can go to the website, neuropraxis.com, or if you search for Neuropraxis in the Apple iTunes store, you'll find it. And we have 4 new libraries coming.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, we've got, you'll love the Neuropraxis for Peak Performance.
Okay, cool.
We're doing one that's Neuropraxis for Entrepreneurs, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a general stress and anxiety library.
I like that.
So when we update the app next, the main library will be more accessible to everybody, just with day-to-day kind of living and surviving. And then all the specialty libraries will be added to it.
It's brilliant because it gives you, like, you use your non-dominant hand to touch certain parts of your body that trigger you can do that throughout your days, weeks, months, and it reminds you of what you're sculpting in your brain, which was super cool and super helpful because I've actually done it. Like I've done the little hand gesture in the module and then throughout the day you're like, oh wait, put my hand here. Yes. Okay. Now I'm okay. It super works. It was such a mind blowing thing for me because I was like, oh, is this like another meditation app? I like meditation, but I don't need another meditation app, but it's not. Totally different. Totally, like, I call it a workout for your brain, but in like a fun way. It's almost like you're doing a sculpting stretch workout. So yeah, it's super handy especially for people dealing, like you said, with biotoxin, because it does touch on all of those aspects of like, nobody gets me. Everybody thinks it's all in my head. Like, or I'm so afraid that I'm going to get re-exposed, the fears that come up. And so it really addresses everything. I don't think you left anything out. And the little feel goods, it gives you like some short little
feel goods. Favorite.
Yeah. They're like 5 or 6 minutes where you can just like sit down and go, okay, I can overcome, like just different things like that. So I really love it.
I have to tell you, this past week, I had something very unexpected happen in business. And we had a deal at the final day of wiring this very exciting deal that had been legally agreed to, and it fell apart. It fell apart for all the right reasons. Okay. But it like triggered me. It was like I had a PTSD reaction. And when I realized it, which is probably the hardest part, I was like, oh my God, that's what's happening. And I went right to the app. And it was like, it took me 2 days to fully like get myself out of it. But I was like, oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
it's nice to have that tool, like you said. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So they've learned about all this. Now we got to tell them, of course, I'm going to have everything in the show notes, but how can people connect with you maybe, or just the milk cleanse in general? Where are they going to find that? Maybe we have a little discount code for my listeners too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
we set
cool.
that up. So your
Yeah.
listeners will get a discount for sure. The best place to buy the milk cleanse is on our website, themilkcleanse.com. The best place to interact with me is on the Milk Cleanse or Neuropraxis Instagram accounts. I see the DMs.
Okay.
I get really excited about these two endeavors. And so like I got really creepy with a friend of mine today. I saw she ordered a milk cleanse, and like I still get the emails because they make me so happy. So when you all order the milk cleanse, you'll know that there's like a cowbell going off on the planet, and it's bringing me massive amounts of joy. And I like texted her and I was like, "Hi." And she's like, "Oh my God." I'm like, no. I got it. I can't lie to you. I'm not that good. Not awesome. That psychic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Instagram is the best place for kind of like, random questions. And we actually recently did this Cleanse with Friends program where all of the most amazing wellness practitioners and teachers and fitness instructors did 8 full days of like talks on how to redesign your life and different movement modalities and meditation modalities and live neurosculpting with Lisa, and Dr. Linda did a couple talks on the milk cleanse and phase 2 nutrition. And so we're just about to put that up. And it's like a system that everybody can go through for 8 days and have additive content to their cleanse.
Yeah.
So there's some good stuff coming.
I think that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been amazing, and hopefully we can do it again, because I'm not done doing this. I'm going to do it periodically, so I'm sure I'll have more success stories for you. But so we'll have to have you back on, and anything that's a new endeavor for you, reach out, because I love what you're putting out into the atmosphere, and I want to be sure to share it with the masses. So
thank you so much. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. So you guys check everything out. I'll have everything in the show notes for you, including your discount code. And so milk does the body good. We'll see what happens to everybody that tries it. They'll have to leave us some feedback and let us know. So
for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Jody. And this has been awesome. Dry skin, hair falling out, sleep issues, low energy, constipation, digestive issues, even trouble swallowing, and feeling like your neck has a lot of tension. These can indicate a thyroid issue. And now more than ever, I'm seeing subclinical thyroid issues in virtually every client I work with. So what's one easy way to amp up your thyroid and improve your health overall? Natural desiccated thyroid. And no, you don't have to go to your physician to get that. You can actually get natural desiccated thyroid from Ancestral Supplements. It's a company that I love and work with. I love their beef thyroid, beef liver supplement. Did you know that you can only make the T4 to T3 conversion into that active thyroid hormone if the liver's in check? So get your thyroid and your liver in check with Ancestral Supplements beef thyroid. Click the link in the description and use my code JODEL to save 10% on a great thyroid support that your body will love and it will thank you for, in the way of getting rid of all of those symptoms I mentioned at the beginning of this.